She was more than a codebreaker. She was a secret weapon in high heels. Elizabeth Smith Friedman decoded Nazi messages, hunted down smugglers, and saved lives with her mind. But history nearly forgot her. This is the full, gripping story of the woman who smashed codes and changed the course of World War II. In a time when women were expected to stay silent and unseen, one woman cracked the code, literally, and rewrote the rules of war and intelligence forever. Her name was Elizabeth Smith Friedman, a name history nearly forgot. But behind enemy lines, across oceans, and deep within encrypted messages, she was a quiet force who changed the course of the 20th century. Before the NSA, before the CIA, before most even knew what code-breaking was, Elizabeth was already intercepting Nazi secrets and unraveling criminal networks. Armed with nothing but her intellect and a pencil, she deciphered messages that would take down smugglers, spies, and saboteurs. She worked in shadows, often uncredited, while others, men, stood in the spotlight for her victories. Her brilliance didn't just aid the war effort, it saved lives and secured entire nations. This isn't just a story about espionage. It's a story about courage, brilliance, and a battle for recognition. From a quiet office in Virginia to the heart of World War II operations, Elizabeth's mind was the weapon no one saw coming. And yet, for decades, her achievements were buried under layers of secrecy. You've heard of Alan Turing. Now meet the woman who smashed codes and barriers. Elizabeth Smith's story begins far from the war rooms and secret agencies she would later shape. Born in 1892 in Indiana, she grew up in a time when women's ambitions were often confined to the home. But Elizabeth was different, curious, determined, and hungry for knowledge. She devoured books and puzzles, showing an early talent for languages and codes that would set her apart. Her path to codebreaking was anything but ordinary. While working as a cataloger at a wealthy philanthropist's library, she stumbled upon an invitation to a secret world, a circle of cryptographers and linguists who cracked puzzles for government and business. This opportunity would change her life forever. It was in this rarefied environment that she met William Friedman, a brilliant geneticist turned codebreaker, who would become her husband and partner in cracking some of history's toughest ciphers. Together, they formed a team that blurred the lines between work and family. While William often got the headlines, Elizabeth was equally vital, an expert in linguistic nuances, a master at spotting patterns others missed. Their collaboration pioneered new methods in cryptanalysis, laying the groundwork for the field as we know it today. But the world they entered was secretive and male-dominated. Elizabeth had to prove herself not just with skill, but with relentless persistence. Her early successes in breaking smuggling codes during Prohibition showed the power of her intellect, but also how much she had to fight for recognition. This was only the beginning of a career that would take her from quiet beginnings to the very front lines of global intelligence. Elizabeth's rise in the cryptography world wasn't just about academic prowess, it was about real-world impact. During the Prohibition era, when America was awash with illegal liquor smuggling and organized crime, she stepped into the fray. The government needed someone who could break the complex codes used by smugglers and gangsters to evade law enforcement, and Elizabeth was ready. She developed a knack for unraveling the encrypted messages sent through seemingly innocuous letters, telegrams, and coded language embedded in everyday conversation. Using her deep understanding of languages, patterns, and human psychology, she cracked codes that seemed unbreakable. Her work helped the Coast Guard intercept illegal shipments and led to the arrests of notorious gangsters who thought their secrets were safe. Despite these critical victories, Elizabeth's contributions were often overlooked. The field of codebreaking was dominated by men. and public recognition skewed heavily toward her husband, William Friedman, who became a well-known figure. Yet Elizabeth remained quietly dedicated, using every success as fuel to push boundaries further. Her efforts during Prohibition not only thwarted crime, but also caught the attention of the U.S. government's intelligence agencies. They saw her potential and soon recruited her to tackle far more dangerous and complex challenges. As Europe edged toward war, Elizabeth's role shifted from battling gangsters to confronting one of the most ruthless regimes in history, Nazi Germany. Her work began in secret, unraveling diplomatic codes and espionage messages that, if left unchecked, could have had devastating consequences. It was here that her unique skill set, her patience, precision, and ability to read between the lines proved invaluable. She became a key player in America's silent war, intercepting enemy plans and safeguarding national security. Elizabeth was breaking codes long before the term cryptography entered mainstream conversation. She wasn't just smashing ciphers, she was smashing the gender expectations of her time, carving out a place for women in a world that rarely welcomed them. As World War II erupted across the globe, the stakes of intelligence work reached unprecedented heights. Elizabeth Smith Friedman found herself at the center of a secret battle that could decide the fate of nations. While soldiers fought on the front lines, she waged war in silence, breaking codes that unlocked enemy secrets and dismantled spy networks. Recruited by the U.S. Coast Guard and later working with the FBI and military intelligence, Elizabeth faced her greatest challenge: decoding the complex, shifting ciphers used by Nazi spies operating within the United States and Allied territories. These weren't just messages on paper, they were blueprints for sabotage, espionage, and destruction. Her work required immense focus and precision. Every message cracked could prevent an attack or expose a covert agent. She decoded communications hidden in innocent-looking radio signals, intercepted telegrams, and coded letters. The complexity of these ciphers often meant she had to invent new techniques, pioneering breakthroughs in cryptanalysis. One of her most notable achievements was breaking the codes used by the Cuban and German spy rings working together to smuggle information to the Axis powers. This led to multiple arrests and thwarted plans that could have severely damaged the Allied war effort. Despite the life-or-death significance of her work, Elizabeth's contributions remained classified for decades. She was sworn to secrecy, unable to share her stories or receive public recognition. Meanwhile, male counterparts, including her husband William, were celebrated in government circles and history books. Elizabeth's persistence was tested not only by the complexity of the codes, but by the very system she served. Gender biases and institutional secrecy kept her achievements hidden, yet she never wavered. Her intellect and determination forged a legacy that underpinned modern cryptography and intelligence. Her story reveals the paradox of unsung heroism, how a woman in a quiet office shaped the course of a global conflict through sheer mental power. Without her, countless enemy operations might have succeeded, altering history itself. Elizabeth Smith Friedman was not just a codebreaker, she was a guardian of freedom, a trailblazer who smashed both enemy codes and societal barriers. Her greatest test wasn't just breaking ciphers, it was breaking through the walls of invisibility cast over her gender and work. After the war, Elizabeth Smith Friedman quietly stepped away from the spotlight, her monumental achievements still locked away in classified files. While the world celebrated visible heroes, her story remained buried beneath layers of government secrecy and societal indifference. Yet her impact was profound. She continued consulting for the government, helping to dismantle smuggling operations and espionage rings during the Cold War era. But as technology evolved and new intelligence agencies like the NSA rose to prominence, the pioneering work she and her husband started became the foundation for modern cryptanalysis, though her name was seldom mentioned. Recognition slowly began to come decades later. Historians and cryptography experts uncovered her story, shining a light on the woman who had shaped global intelligence from behind the scenes. Documentaries, books, and exhibitions now celebrate her groundbreaking contributions. Beyond her technical genius, Elizabeth's legacy is a beacon for women in STEM and intelligence fields. She broke gender norms in a male-dominated profession, proving that brilliance knows no gender. Her story inspires a new generation to challenge barriers and claim their place in history. Elizabeth passed away in 1980, still relatively unknown to the public. But today, her name is being reclaimed as one of the most important codebreakers of the 20th century. A woman who not only smashed codes, but shattered the silence that kept her achievements hidden. Her life reminds us that history is richer and more complex than the stories we often hear. Sometimes the greatest heroes are those who worked in the shadows, quietly changing the world without expecting applause. Elizabeth Smith Friedman's story is more than a chapter in the history of espionage. It's a powerful reminder of how many voices, especially women's, have been left out of the story. She was a pioneer who used her mind as a weapon, quietly cracking the codes that saved lives and altered the course of history. Yet for decades, her name was lost in the shadows of secrecy and gender bias. Her legacy today is not only in the ciphers she broke, but in the barriers she shattered. She paved the way for future generations of women in intelligence, cryptography, and STEM fields, proving that brilliance is not defined by gender or recognition. In a world still wrestling with inequality, Elizabeth's life teaches us the importance of honoring unsung heroes. The woman who smashed codes and barriers deserves to be remembered as one of history's greatest minds. If you found her story as inspiring as I do, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories of hidden heroes who changed the world.
The quiet hum of a stolen thread, breaking walls built on thoughts unsaid. Every layer she pulled apart, a genius fierce with a rebel's heart. She smashed the code, she cracked the lies, under the veil of watchful skies.